Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's Laverne Gordon from Love Life Now Foundation. As you guys know, we typically try and tend to go live randomly. You never know where we're going to pop up with guests that this issue has affected over the years, maybe in the recent past. And we want to keep the issue in the forefront as much as possible as it relates to domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So it was important for us to resume our lives during this month. And I'm so happy that the first person that I'm resuming with is Jay Sean Madry. Jay Sean is joining us from Boston, and Jay Sean comes to this issue now doing this work as a survivor because his sister was brutally taken from him and his family from the world way too soon. So, Jay Sean, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and talk about Jamia.
Hi, how everybody doing? Thank you, Laverne, for having me here.
Absolutely.
My name is Jay Sean Madry. I am brother of Jamia Madry. Um, my sister, she was a great person. She passed away at 27. As they say nowadays, I guess the 27 club. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Um, my sister was she was a great person, man.
Yeah.
She was young, vibrant, loved life, loved kids. She didn't have no kids of her own, but she loved kids. She was just a great person, man. Great
Yeah.
person.
Talk about I'd love for you to touch on some of the things that, she really delved into while she was here in her short time. Um, I know she was, big on education. She was in school, right? And she loved music. Talk a little bit about those things.
I growing up, my father he loved music. He was a big Earth, Wind and Fire fan, Could
Woo!
Function and all that. Yeah. So growing up, my dad always instilled music in us at a very young age. All types of music from Benny and the Jets, um,
Wow.
to Elvis Presley, to like I said, Could Function, Cameo, all types of music. And
All of it. Yeah.
I think that stuck with my sister and me growing up. So we kind of just found a love for music. And she loved growing up. She loved the song by Eve called "Love Is Blind."
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of her favorite songs growing up. And
Wow.
it was crazy because I remember actually when my mother bought her the I don't know if it was a CD or cassette. It was too long ago. It was either CD or cassette, but
Yeah.
might have been CD because it was like 99.
Definitely CD. Yeah.
Yeah, so she bought her the CD. I remember it had the paw prints on it, and my sister loved the song. She loved the song. She loved the video, and throughout the years she would play it. I remember I just seen on Facebook the other day one of her old friends put up talking about how they used to perform the song at the Boys and Girls Club, and she actually had that memory of that song with her.
I love
So
it.
yeah,
And
that
so
showed me.
give folks a little bit of context about why that song means so much in this conversation now.
Yes.
Right? Because a lot of people may have heard of Eve, right? But some of the folks may not know what that song entailed.
Yes. So if you guys go watch the Love Is Blind video by Eve, basically the song's about one of her best friends who passed away in a domestic violence issue. So that's why it's kind of ironic that my sister grew up loving that song and she
Mhm.
passed away the same way, what the song's about. So
Yeah.
that was always kind of big to me because it was like a sign from God, like it's like he's been trying to send a sign for the longest, give us a
Mhm.
warning or something, but it was ironic. It was very ironic.
And so talk about what tragically took place, because again, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We want people to know some of the things that led up to what happened to her by this perpetrator, because we do want to hold him accountable and put him in the spotlight.
Okay. Um, Basically, October 20th, my sister, she had a boyfriend at the time. They was going through some problems, some problems. I guess he was messing around, cheating on her. She stopped messing with him for about a week. She had told him, basically, oh, I'm not gonna, I don't want to deal with you no more. And for a whole week she ignored him. Before that, she had put him in she had got him locked up for putting his hands on her the first time.
Mhm.
She got him locked up. I guess 2 weeks later, his mother, talked her into going to recant her statement and
Mm.
take the charges off. This was
Mhm.
all 2 weeks before he killed her.
Mhm.
Um, After that, she took the her state. She recanted her statement, and then from there, 2 weeks later, he got out. That's where Framingham court struck the ball. There's a lady by the name of Stacy Mercado. She was the
Mhm.
domestic violence officer for their department. She was the main officer, and she was supposed to meet with her 2 weeks after. Well, a week after he was released, she was supposed to meet with her, and she never met with her.
Mhm.
So that was a big thing. And then from there, I guess he got to her house that Saturday. Um, she called me around 11:30. We spoke briefly. She asked me a question. She called me again a few minutes later, asked me the same question. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna send it to you. Just give it to me. Give me a second." And never sent her the text, but
Mhm.
he killed her that night at 2:30 in the morning.
Mhm. Mhm. And so I guess I want to highlight something you said there, that the boyfriend's mother, that she convinced her to recant her story.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, when victims are in this position, first of all, it's a very confusing time, because you don't want to get the person that you love and that claims to love you in trouble.
Hmm.
Um, Even though your safety is paramount, we end up as survivors pushing it to the wayside because we want to safeguard them, and we don't want to get them in trouble. We just want the abuse to stop. And
Hmm.
so that's for anybody that's listening that may be in the same position, that this may be triggering for you, because again, you may be in that same
Hmm.
position as we speak, and you're thinking, man, I just want to pull back or not go through with this because potentially they can change. And as we all know, abusers often don't change because they often have to make a choice to admit that they are this way, and to then do the work. And oftentimes the work isn't done. So, he got to that point, he was let go. The justice system did not follow up. And then, she tragically was taken away by this person. Um, and so I guess I want to ask, what was that, because tonight we're talking about what happens when loved ones, are lose someone to domestic violence. What does that look like? And so I want to talk about what that looked like for you and your family, um, right after, a little bit after that, and now.
Um, for the last 2 years, today's the 2 year anniversary, October 20th. She passed away 2 years today. Um, it's been very hard, man.
Mhm.
Watching my parents. The hardest has been watching my parents suffer. Um, my mom and dad, they had a hard life growing up, and it was a struggle. The '90s was crazy for us minorities, especially in the city.
Mhm.
Jobs, substance abuse. It was wicked back then, and today, now, through the grace of God, my parents are doing better, but they have these struggles because of what they deal with my sister. You know what I'm saying? They you know mental health and depression. My mom deals with that a lot, and watching her go through her depression, it hurts, man. Never watching a mom lose a kid. That was my sister.
Yeah.
I loved her a certain way, but my mom, I feel, had a different love than me. So watching her pain and my dad's pain, I think that hurts the worst than everything.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I have my daughter. My daughter, when she passed, my daughter was 11, but her and my daughter was like real cool. So
Hmm. She was the cool auntie.
yeah, she had
Yeah.
my daughter at her house every other weekend. Her and all the kids, all my daughter's cousins, and they all around the same age. So they all used to go to her house on every other weekend, like literally every other weekend. She'll miss one week, the next week they over there. They spent
Yeah.
every New Year's they spent at her house. They would drink apple cider and sparkling water with her, and they
Yeah.
have their champagne glasses. And watching my daughter now, she's 13 now, and right now I think she's still fighting it. I think she's still trying to act like it doesn't hurt her. But
Hmm.
today I had I follow her on Snapchat and everything, and I seen her post about her, and it
Hmm.
was real touching. She had a bunch of baby pictures from them together and everything, and it was nice. But it showed me that my daughter misses her. My daughter misses her a lot.
And I guess when you talk to that sense, so first of all, I want to highlight the fact that oftentimes you don't hear from men about how this issue affects them. And to hear you so poignantly talk about her, what she meant to your family, um, and now how you're dealing with it, and as it relates to mental health, we don't hear that from men. We a lot of the times don't hear that from Black men. So I just, it's nothing to jump from the rooftops about, because nobody wants to be in this position. But to be able to, again, put a face to what this is for people from a man's point of view, um, is really commendable. And again, I don't mean that in the lightest of terms. I hope you
Hmm.
understand where I'm coming from.
I, completely.
So I thank you from that regard. I know there are folks in our network, um, that you are connected to and are doing the same to uplift you. Shakira is on with us, to
Peace,
highlight.
peace, Miss Story. Peace, Miss Story.
Yes, to highlight what your sister meant, not just to your family, but to the movement, right? And so, it's unfortunate that it she was taken in this way, but this purpose that you and your family have picked up is, my gosh, it's a whole Mimi is the Mimi movement on its
Movement. Yeah.
own, right?
Mhm.
And so you talked about what that meant for you guys overall, especially your mother. God bless her. God bless your siblings and everybody that's connected or that was connected to Jamia, because I I don't know what it feels like to lose someone
Mhm.
in this regard. And I can only imagine the whole, even the potential of my mother being killed when I was coming up. My father would always bring her to the brink of that.
Mhm.
Just enough, right? He would do just enough brutality. But to have someone taken in that way, I cannot imagine the magnitude. So
Yeah.
I guess I would like for you to talk about what that then now means for you and your family, and how you guys are intending to remember her and have
Um.
her name live on.
Yeah. Definitely. Right now, we got two different things we're doing right now. Well, first of all, let me just say that this has changed our lives drastically, and
Mhm.
before this, my mom has dealt with this in the past too. So now just dealing with this with Jamia now, it's kind of even for my mom, it's kind of like it's just it's back to her like reality again. Like she's been through it before. So right now with her is I think now she sees what she was going through before, how
Yes.
bad it was what she was going through before. And I think
Mhm.
she understands now how bad what she was going through before, and how like it affected my sister now, because my sister seen her go through that.
Yeah.
So my sister, I feel like she's seen her mother go through that. So I felt like she was okay with some of the things that she was dealing with at the time, and
Mhm.
so now, me and my mom, we're starting first of all the Jamia Madry Foundation. That's just going to be a family. It's nothing's up yet, nothing's in stone
Yeah.
yet. We're still
Yep.
working on it, getting all the
Hmm.
paperwork done and everything. But that's the first thing we're doing. Just the foundation, just to bring awareness. We like to raise money just to we want to put on events and shows and go to businesses, different jobs. People, we want to go to people's
Yeah.
job sites, and because this is a thing that happens in people at people's work too. So we want to
Hmm.
go to job sites and to spread the word on and her story and our story
Hmm.
collectively as a family. I have a
Absolutely.
have a little sister as well, and we also want to just collectively spread the word. And then on the side, me personally, I'm an artist in Boston. Everybody check me out, Jay Boston, follow the page and all that. um
What
I'm
is
an
it, Jay
artist.
Boston?
Yes, Jay Boston on iTunes, YouTube, all that. um Now with me, with personally, since I love music so much and we used to love music so much, Shamia loved music. In her honor, I would also like to I'm starting a campaign, a movement called Rap Against DV, where we basically using music to bring awareness to domestic violence. Back growing up in the '90s, the '90s hip hop was very vulgar to women.
Yeah.
They was very disrespectful to women, and I feel like growing up as a young man in the hood, I didn't look at it back then as how bad it was, how disrespect. But now that I went through this with my sister, and I go back and listen to old,
To some of the lyrics.
yeah, I start to see
Hmm.
like, wow, that was very vulgar, that was really disrespectful, and I wouldn't even let my kids listen to it. So I'm like,
Hmm.
what can I do to change the future kids coming up, the way they think about women, and I think music
Hmm.
plays a major part in that. So what I'm doing is starting Rap Against DV. I have a couple rappers on board already, a couple musicians. Basically just spreading awareness through music. It could be
Yeah.
anything from rappers changing their lyrics from calling women b words to something else that's less
Uplifting.
vulgar. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
have no more the whole call them hoes and none of that stuff. Like no more degrading women. Let's let's
Yeah.
let's lift them up in the word and in the music, and I think that will play a major part with the kids growing up.
Yeah. And so the two things I want to touch on that you highlighted. And so all good, right? I love that we're having this discussion because you're bringing up some great points. One was the fact that being a child witness to this issue isn't something to take lightly. Okay? And the effects of that oftentimes follow us into adulthood.
Hmm.
Okay. I'll even again share my instance where I was a child witness. I had five siblings. I was the middle child, and each of us saw the same abuse.
Hmm.
I became a victim. Two brothers were abusive, one is not, and a sister that says, try me. Okay. So even though we all lived in the same house and saw the same thing, we all took away from it different things. So to
Hmm.
the folks that are listening, anybody watches this video and thinks, I have a child with somebody, I want to stay with them because um, essentially I want to keep our family together because I probably didn't have parents coming up in my house. So I want to make this work for that. Or my family was horrible and I don't think mine's is that horrible. So I'll stay. There's so many reasons and excuses that we find for ourselves to stay in these relationships. And I want to tell you that when you think you're doing right for the kids, and again, talking to folks that are listening now, when you think you're doing right for the kids to stay, there's often more damage than good being done. So there is help available, there's support available. The other side looks daunting, but there is resources available, and that's part of what you are looking to be a support of going forward. Now, second point, the rap through music, as you talked about, there's so many influences that come to relationships and what they can look like when children become adults, and music absolutely is one of them, right?
Hmm.
Oftentimes we think our kids are going to school and they're having these great happy-go-lucky relationships, and it's because the cycle is repeating from 13, 14, 15 years old. And we don't know that because they're not telling us when they come home that this boy pushed me or this boy, is treating me this way. They're not necessarily sharing these things with us. So when something big happens, we're like, wow, I never knew, right? But there are signs that you can look for in teenagers where this issue is prevalent. It could be that they're now reluctant to hang out with your family, where they used to be, happy go lucky to be ready to hang out before. It may be that you're wearing a hoodie. It could be that they're wearing a hoodie in the summer. What are they
Mhm.
covering up?
Mhm.
It could be that they are lashing out. It could be that they are having to check in with this boyfriend all the time because he wants to know where they are at any given point.
Mhm.
There are all these sort of telltale signs that lets you know this is happening in teenagers and ways that you can circumvent it. So I'm glad that you touched on those. And like you said, the music portion has a lot to do with it because sometimes we sing these lyrics and they're so vulgar and so innate that you take it on and you're like, Jesus, this is the way I got to treat this female for her to get
Mhm.
respect. This is the
Mhm.
way I got to treat this female for her to love on me. And
Mhm.
so you marry that with what you're seeing at home, and then you take that with the music and you combine it, and it's a cocktail disaster waiting to happen. So thank you for sort of taking that initiative. I am excited about it. The fact that you have other rappers that are willing to join you is awesome. Talk
Thank you. Thank
about
you.
what the Mimi movement and the Jamia Madri Foundation is going to do. What are the things that you guys are looking to help with, as far as survivors are concerned and victims?
Basically, so we're from Roxbury, Boston and Roxbury. Um, over like over the past year, so many women reached out to me.
Mhm.
That's from our community, from our background,
Yeah.
um, from places we come from.
Mhm.
A lot of these females, um, don't want to go to the police. A lot of them want to go to people that they know that look like them, that talk like them. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that with the Mimi movement and the Jamia Madri Foundation, I think it would give the woman that's in these neighborhoods more validation that the insecurity that they can come for help. And it's
Yeah.
not just the police that's going to help you. It's not just
Right.
it helps everywhere. And that's what I want to
Mhm.
show them, that with the Mimi movement, don't be afraid just because you in the hood. That's not snitching.
Mhm.
That's not ratting. That's not none of that. That's making sure you safe so you won't end up like my sister. So
Right.
the main thing we're doing right now is just pushing it in the inner cities right now. Um again, it's not
It's
race
not
based.
established yet per
It's not
se. Yeah.
yeah, it's not race based, it's not gender based, it's not
Yep.
established yet. But we're not focusing on one crowd. Is for everybody. But
Yes.
we're starting in the inner city where that's where my sister was from, and she has a lot of friends right now that's going through it. We got people that
Mhm.
hit me up on my Facebook every day that these people would never go to the police. They would never be that type of woman, but they come to me.
Absolutely. Yes,
They
but
come
they'll
to
come to
me,
you. Right.
and it's like so now that I'm starting to get a lot more women reaching out. It showed me that it's time for me to execute this plan and get it going.
Yeah. And so I see Rob Demio has joined us.
Rob, what up, bro?
Rob has joined us, and why that's special is because we have yet another man who lost a loved one to domestic violence. His mother was slain at the hands of her boyfriend in Florida, and Rob, just like you, Sean, has used his voice to advocate for this issue since, and
Can
I
I touch
commend
on the
that.
can I touch on the men thing real quick before we move
Absolutely,
on?
absolutely.
Um, and it's hard for, I think, us as men. I think to accept certain things, and in this situation, I'm spreading the word because a lot I noticed since when I'm doing this, not a lot of men like to talk about this. Not a lot of men
No,
like to be part of something like this.
no.
And I really didn't hit me. I'm like, why wouldn't? a man, wouldn't want to be in son and part of this. But I noticed over the time that this is this is sensitive to men. This is a sensitive
Mm-hmm.
subject to men, and not a lot
Mm-hmm.
of men know how to talk about their feelings when it comes to women.
Feelings. Mm-hmm.
And I think that us men have to speak up more and protect our women more, and that's where I'm coming from. I feel like if I'm speaking up, other guys in the neighborhoods and and other places will speak up when they see this happening. They won't just
Mm-hmm.
keep a mouth shut. Before, domestic violence was kind of just swept under the rug,
Yep.
and it wasn't really like it was especially where I'm from in the hood. It's kind of like turn a blind eye.
It's turn up. It's not my business, right?
So I think
Yeah.
as me coming out, I feel like with the men, I feel like if male men come out and speak about it, then the men
Mm-hmm.
that are doing it, the abusing, would be more hesitant to abuse now because they know that this is not something we're allowing.
You're not kosher, and so that leads to again. You're bringing up gems, so we're going to touch on them, okay? I'm going to piggyback on what you said about why Black women do not report. Right? I just did a panel discussion with women from across the country that are sort of in tune with this work, and a lot of it was talking about why Black women are more likely to be killed at the hands of their partner or be abused or sexually assaulted by their partners. And some of the reasons why we don't speak up or say anything. And as I mentioned, thank you, Charlene. Charlene says I was called a snitch or rat if I tried calling the police while he was hitting me. He has wrestled the phone from me while pregnant with my second. I tried calling for help many times. Um, but he used to use the narrative that you want me dead like George Floyd. I'm thankful, but he had his LTC right before I left. And so again, this goes right hand in Charlene. Thank you for that comment.
Thank you,
Uh,
Charlene. Thank you.
Big time. So what I do want to say there, yes, and men do need to take accountability. Rob
Shout out
says
to my
men,
that's my baby sister right there, Lee Blanco. Shout out to her. That's my Lee Blanco, and
big love and hugs to you,
that's
Lee.
that's my baby
Um,
sister right there. And yes, she's right. A lot of men got to take accountability, man. That's all it is.
accountability. Rob says men don't know what they don't know, but more men talking about it, men are going to learn. And absolutely right. So it takes men like you and Rob that are making this a conversation as opposed to a daunting topic. And so that is where, but before I even go there, I want to talk about the points that you made about the women that you're coming into contact with that are feeling okay to speak to you, but not necessarily to go, and like Charlene said, not to be looked upon as a snitch. Black women have these barriers, these additional barriers. It's already hard to leave these types of relationships. But then you add additional barriers like the fact that police and Black people don't have necessarily the best relationships. Okay. Like she said, Charlene said her ex would use, the fact that you want me dead like George Floyd. Right. So we as the women are tasked with the sort of the gatekeeping of keeping our Black men safe, because we know that if police show up, they may not go directly to jail, they might end up dead. So we have that looming, right? That's one. Number two, we oftentimes, when police are called, sometimes there's this already there bias that they're going to look at us as aggressors because of the way that we act. We're passionate a lot of the time, so that may come off as fast lipped or who you think
Mm-hmm,
you're talking to type deal. And then
mm-hmm,
we as the victims are getting hauled off along with the abuser.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then nothing is solved. Then you have where sometimes police in our communities don't look like us. So you have someone of another race who may not understand our culturalisms, and that it may not be good for you to show up and call me out, right? Because that ain't good. Okay.
Okay.
And like you said, at the core, You're fearful, A, that you'll be called a snitch, B, that you'll be ostracized from your community for
Mm-hmm.
bringing down another black man,
Mm-hmm.
C, that your pastor might frown upon that because he's told you over and over again, let's pray,
Mm-hmm.
which I am a Christian and I am all for that. But
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes clergy, where we know the black community leans in on our faith,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to and people in that in those positions to lead us directly, oftentimes we're being told that divorce is not an option and that you need to get counseling and you need to bring in your, and oftentimes the abuser will agree, hey, I'll go to church with you because I don't want you to leave. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to come back for more abusing, but so I'll go to church and I'll get counseling, and we know obviously that's doing nothing. They need way more work than that, and they need way more help than that. And prayer is the thing that's not going to help. God helps those that helps themselves. So,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly.
So I do want to point out that there are resources. There is a shift in the movement that's happening as we speak, where many DV agencies after the George Floyd incident are realizing that they have to have people in place, and some police stations as well. They're realizing that they have to have people that look like us that can help us bait and meet us where we're at. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to point that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as what you're talking about in terms of men being a part of this conversation, the White Ribbon campaign is something Rob has been a part of. He's joined us for that gala. It's a nationwide campaign that asks more men to speak out on this issue. And so, Jay, I would love for you to join us next year. We weren't able to have it in person this past year, but again, it's asking more men to be part of the conversation because, like you said, oftentimes it's us as women saying, don't kill us, stop harming us. Men aren't necessarily part of that conversation, and we have to change that. We have to welcome more men because then we're spinning our wheels. 90% of the time, men are the perpetrators, and we must involve men in this conversation. So thank you for that, Rob. Charlene says, thanks for being open and helping women. Rob says, "Yes, white ribbon, let's go." Rob, you've been part of that movement for about 2 years now, and I'm excited to get Jay be involved in that and use his voice. And Lee says, "Therapy and catering to your mental health is not a bad thing. Something that I'd like to see more of." And yes, you're absolutely right, Lee. In our communities, there's this stigma that mental health makes you, if you even begin to talk about your feelings or anything related to that, that you're crazy. And that's certainly not the case. When you are
Mm-hmm.
physically sick, you go to the doctor. When you are spiritually depleted, you go to church. Your mental health needs addressing the same way. So I'm a huge advocate for that. Thank you for pointing that out, Jay. And I guess now I'd like to talk about um, in terms of because I really want to highlight what the work that you're trying to do after what's happened, the Jamia Madri Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
What types of circumvented help are you going to offer once that's established? Talk about some, because
Oh,
I was able to visit the website, and some of the breakdowns of things that you're looking to do is awesome.
yeah.
So talk about that.
But first on the first, with the music part, um, I wanna, coincide the Rap Against TV with the Jamia Madri Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I'm saying by that, with the Jamia Madri Foundation, I want to start doing events. I want to start doing shows, music shows. I want
Mm-hmm.
to have all different artists come out that dealt with domestic violence at
Before.
home,
Mm-hmm.
and that want to come out and spread it in their music and love. And with these shows, with events, I think having concerts with with just domestic violence awareness as the topic, I think that would help spread awareness in music a lot. A lot of people
Sure.
come out to concerts, and then you have a lot of people, a lot of artists that dealt with it, so they could come out and get on stage and talk about it before they sing or rap, or maybe even have a song about domestic violence, and they could perform it. So that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I want to do. We want to start doing shows and having events like that. Second, another one we wanted to do that was on the website. We wanted to get emergency shelter for women that are in these current situations that's actually going through an emergency situation. So
Mm-hmm.
we would like the woman to first get a police report, show us the police report, make sure everything's legit, and from there we'll be able to help them get shelter for 3 to 5 days just to get out of immediate danger. So that's another thing we was looking forward to do. Again, I said, like, a lot of people feel like they call police, they don't get help.
Yep.
So maybe they think, oh, the police ain't gonna do nothing but lock him up, or or put us in the shelter somewhere where he's gonna find us. And
Yeah.
so I think that one, having emergency shelter would be a big thing. Second, we wanted to do the clothes for kids that are in DV households.
Yeah.
I feel like when women or men deal with it too, are in these situations and they're a single parent, um, they can't really, they don't have the means or funds, or sometimes they're not even focused. They're going through so much abuse that they're not even focused on how their kids are represented. And
Yeah.
even kids, going to school, they going to school, they're feeling down, they're looking down. And I think
Yeah.
getting them some clothes. My sister, and this is another thing, because Mimi was big on fashion with kids. With my
Yeah.
kids, she'll see my kids, they're not going out in that, and she'll change them.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like that's big with my sister, that she like kids to be fly and represent themselves right. So I feel like that was part of Mimi's movement. We would like to help kids that are in these households with clothing, and not just regular clothing. We like to get them name brand stuff so that they can fit in with the other kids. you know
Yeah.
that's one of the
Yeah.
things we're doing. What was the other thing? A couple other things we was doing. I said the shows, the clothes drive. What was a couple other things we was doing? There's so many. I'm going blank right now. There's so many
I
things we had
know.
to
I
do.
know. I
Um,
really was impressed with the direction that the movement, that the foundation is looking to head. I think they're valuable things that a lot of the times that victims get to that breaking point where they're thinking about leaving, and there's that gap where they
mhm,
need emergency shelter,
mhm,
because there is no shelter beds available right away. So I do want to point out that in the state of Massachusetts there are domestic violence agencies that have DV shelters attached to them. There are
mhm,
many throughout the state, and
mhm,
that resource is SafeLink. It is
mm.
run by the Casa Myrna Domestic Violence Agency, but SafeLink is the statewide domestic violence hotline, and it's 877-785-2020. I'll make sure to put that in the comments when we're done. But if you or someone is going through an abusive situation, please call the statewide domestic violence hotline. Again, that is SafeLink, to find out where there might be shelter beds available. What
Mhm,
you are trying to do or looking to do is to make sure that they have that gap of when they leave and they don't have, and there's no beds,
mhm,
that they can get put up in a hotel or emergency shelter 2 to 3 days. That
mhm.
we have that, as it's called the Get Safe Fund. But it takes a village on this issue. So the more the more support that anybody has in any area, the better.
And like I said, with some of those organizations, the people that come from our background, my background, sometimes
They're
don't
not.
like to reach out to those organizations. Sometimes they don't like to
Exactly.
talk to them people. So, you know, having just that other avenue for them, I think would be great.
Exactly. It takes a village, Jay Sean. And so to have that piece everywhere, if I wish that there were those, that fund that you're talking about doing, that those were pockets everywhere. I got a
Mhm,
call, and I'll tell you how wide this need is. And so I got a Springfield today. She was pointed in our direction, and this is oftentimes what it is, by a domestic violence agency in that area. So they couldn't even help her with this particular funding. They did not have any beds. She was not necessarily looking for a bed, but her thing is that she wanted to get to another city, but she
mhm,
had no bus fare, she had no cab fare, she had nothing. She was
mm,
brought from Michigan by her abuser here,
mm,
and the abuse ensued. And so she has no support. She reached out to the DV agency in question, and then they sent her to me.
Mm.
And they, we were able to help her with an Uber, a hotel through Friday, and then from there she's going to get herself to Vermont, which is where she's going to be able to be stable. So
Mm.
again, that gap that you're talking about is so critically important, because oftentimes when victims get to that point, they believe that if there's no shelter bed, well then, oh, that's it, I'm just either going to go back, um or end up tragically hurt, and you don't want that. That gap needs to be filled. So I
Mhm.
applaud you again for looking to go this route. I'm going to read some of the comments.
It was one more thing before we go into comments.
Go
One more
ahead.
thing we was trying to help out with. Also, and we want to, help with tutoring with kids in
Tutoring,
domestic
yes.
violence, abuse households. I feel like when you're in those households, the parent doesn't really have time to be on the kids, work or homework and stuff like that. So I feel like me, when I was a kid dealing with these things, um, school wasn't really my focus. So I feel like,
Yep.
getting these kids that are in these situations a tutor to actually let them know, like, hey, I understand what you're going through. It's not normal, but these things happen. But I'm here to keep you on track with school. And I
Yeah.
think coming from a domestic violence household, sometimes the parents just they're not. Sometimes the mother or father, whoever's getting abused, is such in a bad
A
mental
state of mind.
that they can't teach or help the kid with their work. So that's
Yeah.
another thing we would like to work on.
Absolutely, and that's huge. And like you said, oftentimes, and then even so, maybe they're out of the house. That might be hard for kids that are in the situations now, because then that will give the abuser some inclination that they're getting help for something, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But meeting them where they're at, let's say they, like you said, getting a tutor that can meet them at school, and they can make an excuse that they got to stay after school for practice, but it's really
Hmm.
tutoring because of BV, right? And so
Hmm.
I love that direction. I think it's fantastic. And I am just excited about all the things that you guys are going to do. We're going to touch on some of the comments, because there are a lot. People are chiming in. So Rob says, yes, white ribbon, let's go. Um, uh, your sister Lee, she says therapy and catering to your mental health is not a bad thing. Sometimes she'd like to see more of something she'd like to see more of. Your mom, I gotta say, shout out to your mom. Maria Madri is joining us in the
Yes,
comments.
shout out moms.
She's been chiming in throughout, and I love that. So Maria says spreading awareness, or I should say Miss Madri is saying spreading awareness is key. Women and I think
Women.
she says maybe women and
Yeah.
men need to feel safe to express their feelings without being punished. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Charlene says it made it hard for me because we were in a biracial relationship slash marriage. So whole other level. Yes, I understand to what degree you're referring to. He would use race against me because I'm white. He would guilt trip me into not calling. I hate how race is used against us in general. And that's a whole other show, Charlene. That's
Hmm.
a whole other show that we can just break down in itself. But yes, I understand what you're saying. Rob says huge stigma around mental health and the substance abuse that comes along with the trauma. So oftentimes, folks are in this situation, and it's because they have begun to self-medicate. I know survivors in my space who turn to alcohol. I know survivors in my space that that turn to drugs. They're now on the other side, but again, they use this as a way to sort of numb the pain. But as it relates to abusers, oftentimes I hear from folks, you know, he got drunk and that's why he hit on me. No, alcohol is not the reason, or drugs is not the reason why people abuse. It's simply an inhibitor. It
Hmm.
adds fuel, but it's not the reason why. This is
Hmm.
a learned behavior that is, again, picked up from early on in a household or in your environment. Oftentimes, it's not
Hmm.
often, it's not it's not all of it, but that's majorly part of it. So
Hmm.
when somebody does this to you, it's not because, oh, I'm drunk and my hand just hit you because, I'm kind of that way right now. No, it's a choice that they made to do this, and it isn't
Mhm.
something that you can fix, no matter how much you cry, no matter how much you try, no matter how much you stay. You have to make that choice to leave, and they have to make the choice to get help. Maria says, Miss Madry says, need to be able to, right, we talked about that. I'm sorry, the comments went back up on me. Let me go down here. Jasmine says, forever Mimi. Speak at schools, colleges, etc. Absolutely. Thank you for that. It's
Shout out my
huge.
little cousin Tamise. Shout out
Hi,
Jasmine.
Tamise. Thank you for joining the live and giving that input. That's huge. I mean, again, because this issue repeats itself from a very early age. Charlene says there are still some police departments as well that don't have domestic violence advocates to help with the aftermath of leaving. And that brings up a very big point. I was just on a news interview for ABC4 Utah, and that was centered around the Gabby Petito case where, you know, we all saw the footage of that and how that played out and how police showed up and responded. And we who are survivors and advocates behind the scenes and know clearly there was so many signs that this was happening. It's maddening that when that additional footage came out where she's sitting in the car and she says, oh, you know, did he ever hit you? And she says, no, he only did this to me. And they still let them drive on. Domestic
Mhm.
violence is training is not across the board in many police stations, and that's something absolutely, Charlene, that needs to happen.
Mhm.
Some states, some cities are trained. I know Brockton police, they're trained. I know Boston police, they're trained. I know even in my small town in Avon, they're trained. But then you might go to another town and it's like they show up and they're doing all the wrong things, that are potentially going to lead a victim to death. So thank you for pointing that out. It really needs to be across the board, as well as in the court systems. As you talk about your sister, Jay Sean, and what, you know, you guys are having to go through to hold this man accountable, it's maddening.
It's
Talk
it's
about that. Where you guys
it's
are now.
so where we at now, it's a very tough place. I never thought this would happen. So right now, he's being held in Bridgewater State Hospital. Um, he is I wouldn't say playing crazy because he is obviously crazy. He has some mental health problems. But right now, his mental health didn't have to do anything with why he murdered her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what he's trying to use, And so right now we're in court. He's still in the criminal case. We're still in the criminal part. Um, we haven't even went to superior court yet. We're still in the beginning process of it. But right now with him being in Bridgewater, it pisses me off. It pisses
Mm-hmm.
me off because you murdered not only just some girl, you murdered my sister.
Yeah.
And now the system. He knew the system before he did this, so he knew that I have history of this going on, so that if any of this happens, they're gonna look at my mental health as the problem.
Yeah.
He knew this,
Yeah.
and my sister knew this as well. There's something they spoke about, and so now he's running with oh, I have mental problems, and that's why I did it, and it's so bad now. Like again, I said he at the time when he murdered her, um, Dorchester Court let him out on a bracelet. So that's first of all that I have a problem with Dorchester Court because whoever his probation officer, whoever the judge was, has to be held accountable because he was on a bracelet and he had an open case. He was on a bracelet when my sister got him locked up for that domestic case. So he was on the bracelet prior to her doing that. So for you to let him
Wow.
out while he's on the bracelet, while
On
he's
top
open,
of that,
on top of that, because an open case, you drop the ball. And then for you to even let him out, and now y'all saying, oh, he has a mental problem. Where was his mental problem when you let him out on a bracelet?
right.
So now you're trying to say now that he murdered somebody, oh, now it's a mental problem? No.
Yeah.
And so now that's it's very frustrating with him not being held accountable in the right form. And I don't wish jail on no man. I would not on my worst enemy, but in this situation, knowing that he's in a mental hospital and getting treated like a patient and not an inmate is
Right.
horrible.
It's maddening. So I hope to that end, that I know there are folks that you are in contact with that are working to that end to help sort of rectify that huge piece of
we,
injustice.
we have people helping, but we also need a lot more help. So if anybody out there has any attorneys, anybody that could, help us out with this, going forward, he's in Bridgewater right now. They're holding him. Um, he is found competent, but some reason he's found competent, but he's still being held in Bridgewater. Doesn't make sense. So yeah, if anybody else out there got resources that can help us with that, any lawyers on here that could help us out with that, please reach out to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm personally going to reach out to some folks I know in my space to see um what and if anything they can do, because this is that, like I said, it's maddening to anybody that's been affected by this issue. And even if you've never been, that in itself is just, it's not okay. He did what he did and he needs to be held accountable at the highest level. I'm sorry, how do you say it? Meese, is it
Meese,
Meese?
Meese. Her name's Tay Meese. Tay Meese.
Tammy says, you never know this feeling until it hits close to home. I never want anybody to feel like this. It hurts. It's like a big hole in my heart. It hurts. People need to get educated about DV. There's so many resources to help victims. Don't fight this alone. And again, that just brings the message that we are trying to send through this broadcast home, because we want people to know that you are not alone. I know, Jay Sean, you mentioned that, oftentimes we as Black women, we don't want to report because we don't feel comfortable, at the potential of what's going to happen. But the hell that you're in now, it can only go upwards if you speak up. They
Mm-hmm.
prey upon our silence.
and
When
and and men and men too. Men got to know that just
Yes,
because you're encouraging a woman to go to the police, you're not a snitch either. If a
right.
woman's in fear of her life, you as a man should show her the right way. You don't got to go get crazy. You don't got to be abusive. You don't got to go and use violence. You
Not
could
at
show her
all.
the right way. So men out there that's listening, if a woman's telling you this, you could play any way you want, but the right way to play is, get her some help, go to police and
Yes.
accompany her to the police, be by her side so that if he does come back,
Exactly. How do
you
you
guys could be there.
become how do you become an upstander? I'm no longer using the word by, because that's standing by and watching something happen. How do you become an upstander with this issue? And
And that,
again, as Jay Sean said, it's not necessarily about, going to beat the guy down, because guess what? You beat him down, you handle him in, behind closed doors or in the street. Guess who's going home with the abuser? The victim, and you have solved nothing. So, one, always call the police. If you know something is happening, call the police every single time, because the victim oftentimes will not pick up the phone and call. Get a number. If this is a personal friend of yours, you get a number for a DV agency, a support like Jay Sean once the foundation is started, but get the number for the domestic violence agency in your area so that you can say, sis, I know you might not be ready to leave right now, but here's this number. Here's this website. Can you check it out when you get a minute? Empower her to make the choice, because one of the frustrating things for family members on the outside looking in is that we often stand back and say, man, I told her a lot of times she need to leave that dude, but she ain't leaving. I don't know what's wrong with her. So I'm done. I'm
Mhm.
done talking to her. And that's the wrong approach. You always want to let them know that you're there no matter what. And if they just look, I'm giving you this number. Look, when you have a minute, can you just take a minute and look at it when you get a chance? Let them
Mhm.
go on there to see what the signs of domestic violence is, so that they can read in black and white, like, oh, he's jealous. Oh, he's possessive. Oh, he checks my whereabouts all the times. Oh, he isolates me from family and friends. Sometimes if people read those things in black and white, sometimes that's what jumps out to them. Not you saying, girl, that man beat on you, that's not right, and all this stuff. So that is in, out. And what that does, all that does is push them closer to their abuser. So you want to
Mhm.
have them check it off, let them figure it out on their own and make the decision. Like, I've had enough. I know there's a support waiting for me. Jay Sean's going to help me at any given point. Look, you need me to hold the kids? You need me to watch the kids? I'll hold the kids. You need a
Mhm.
ride? I'll take you, because I know if you take your car, he'll see you and he'll know you're gone, your car's gone or whatever. Make
Mhm.
ways. don't make barriers, don't make judgments. Um, so thank you
Seriously.
for that, Jay Sean. And then Kiki says, I will definitely donate whatever is needed. Jamia is my first cousin. Jay Sean's so proud of you, legit. Kiki, thank you so much for that
That's my
big
cousin in
time.
Maryland. That's my cousin in Maryland, man. You know, and that's
Hi,
another thing.
Kiki.
I have so many females in my family, man, and just like
Yeah,
my like me said, it's like, it hurts watching my younger, especially not just my younger, because my cousin Kiki too, but my younger females in my family that had to watch this. They love my sister, so for
yeah.
them to have to, young girls see that, it's traumatizing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, when we get to this point of talking about, again, somebody said that when the issue hits close to home, it hits different, is because, again, you know this has happened in your family or somewhere in the environment in the past, and you're like, yeah, that'll never be me, that'll never be her. That'll never, ever, ever. And unfortunately, this issue goes so far and wide across the board that you can't say that. There are women and men that are walking in our circles that are going through this. And the problem is, none of them are speaking up, which is why our voice holds so much power. When we decide to speak up, that's where the power and control in these relationships begins to dismantle. And so, just again, recognizing the signs, having and knowing what the resources in your area to be able to point someone in the right direction for help, having it in your catalog, just mentally knowing that there is help available should you ever run into it, because one in every four women, one in every seven men, one in every three teens will experience this issue in their lifetime, and those are the
Mm,
reported numbers. Can you imagine how many people
mm.
that have not reported, especially Black women in our communities? Can you imagine that? The
It's,
number
it's
is way high,
it's crazy. It's actually this past
way
weekend. I was with a friend, and the friend was telling me how one of their homegirls that I know, is right now is getting beat on, and
Yeah, wow.
and I told her like, hey, like, like, told her to call me. I know the young girl. I told her to call me, and she's like, oh, it's not just me. He's beating up on the other girl too, and so he got two girls that beating on. So I'm like, are you serious? Like, and they just allowing it, and so it's very it's right. It's outside. It's right outside. It's right now. It's happening right now. My sister's anniversary is today. Somebody probably could be somebody died today from domestic violence. It happens every other
Absolutely.
day, and I never knew how much it happened until I went through this. I didn't see it
How
as
much of
much.
an Yeah, how much of an
I didn't
epidemic it is.
after the
Every 9 seconds alone in the US, someone's being affected by this issue.
and I
That's a
didn't I
fact.
didn't know that until I went through it. Now that I went through it, every time I see it on TV or the internet, I look. I'm like, wow, like this. There's another family dealing with this. There's another
Mhm.
child and mother dealing with this, and it's a lot. I've seen it in Boston three times already. I've seen the Gabby Petito case. It's a bunch going on right now, and
And and those are the stories that you're seeing. Again, when you break it down to communities like Roxbury, Brockton, Dorchester, what about the ones that you're not seeing? A, because they're too afraid of maybe immigration
hmm
issues.
hmm
There may be financial issues that they have to see. You know what? He beats me, but he takes care of the kids. He beats me, but he's a good father. He beats me, and he provides shelter for us. So there's all these reasons why victims end up staying in these relationships, and I don't think it's never. I don't think it's ever about the allowing. It's more so about the grooming that abusers do
mm
from very early on in these relationships, because domestic violence isn't something that's happening. You get into a relationship and bam, he's beating you, or bam, he's diminishing your worth. None of that happens right off the bat. It's liberties that they take little by
hmm
little, and then it keeps building and building, and before you know it, you're in a situation where you're questioning yourself every single time. And I cannot speak for Jamia, God rest her soul in honor. But a lot of the times, women, and I can speak for myself, we're in this situation where we're looking at it like, gosh, it's not that bad,
hmm
right? My
hmm
mom got worse than this. So you know what? I'm gonna take him back, right?
hmm
Um, he
And I
only
think that's
slapped me
exactly
this
what happened
time.
with Jamia.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's I think that's exactly what happened to Jamia. You know what I'm saying? I think she, I don't, I know she never thought she would be murdered by him. You know, my sister was one of the toughest
Absolutely.
females I know. I think she, I think she just, oh, I'm going through this little phase real quick. He's gonna hit on me right now, and that's it. And it wasn't just that. It was more serious than what she thought.
Because you get so mentally engulfed by what they're selling to you. You begin to believe it. You begin
Hmm.
to believe it, and let it not be that, like where he got locked up initially, and then he comes out, or he's talking to her from jail, or I'm just throwing out scenarios. I'm not saying this potentially happened, but you know you have this person in your ear that's saying it's not going to happen again. I love you. It's because I love you why I get so crazy, or any amount of things that you're hearing that you're like, oh, you know what, maybe I'm overreacting. I'm
Hmm.
going to listen to his mother-in-law because maybe I took it too far. That's
Hmm.
her only son, or that's her son or baby. I don't need to be the cause of that. And that we put our safety on the backside, and that's not what you want to do. We are at the 8 o'clock hour. So we've been talking for an hour passionately about this, and I'm so happy. I want to read some of the comments, and then I want to touch on the Mimi movement info again so folks can know. To me says, don't ignore the signs. If they hate you once, they will absolutely do it again. Domestic violence is a systematic pattern of behavior. It isn't something that someone does once. It's a pattern of behavior of surrounding power and control that involves emotional, verbal, and physical, sometimes sexual abuse. And so, again, if they did it once, they absolutely will do it again. Honey Dip sends a lot of purple hearts. Purple is the domestic violence awareness color, and it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So thank you for that. Um, to me says, I want to remember maybe as the person she is. I say is and not because she's still here in spirit. Absolutely. Charlene says, me to me, some towns are better than others in helping. Yes, if it's a situation that needs to be addressed more. I wish this country took domestic violence as the epidemic that it is. The amount of dollars that they throw at this issue, it's just not enough, right? There's so much more that could be done if they took this issue as the epidemic that it is. Brianna Hall says, hurting someone isn't love. Love does not hurt. And you are absolutely correct. Someone that claims to love you, there are so many, and oftentimes I like to point out the equality wheel and what that means in relationships. You think you know what a healthy relationship is supposed to look like, but many people do not. And so even though we point out a lot about the equality wheel, I think we lost Jay Sean. Are you still there? There you are. There you are. Um, the equality wheel talks about respect and communication and shared responsibility, all these things, intimacy, honesty, trust. All of these things are the things that surround healthy relationships, and oftentimes people don't even know what that is. So it may be said with going without, but love is an action word where all these things that I just pointed out come into play. It certainly is not hurting somebody that you say you love. Love is never supposed to hurt. To me says, and you're absolutely correct. So, Keishon, I want you to talk about the Jamia Foundation, Jamia Maji Foundation. You might be switching. I'm hearing some feedback noise in the background.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
Can you hear
now.
me?
It sounds a little crackly, but I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what my service just went crazy, but
You're breaking up. You're frozen. There
yes,
you
the
go.
volume.
It's it's breaking up in between and you're frozen. You might have switched platforms. I can see you now. So I wanted you to talk about the Jamia Maji Foundation again and talk about the hoodie that you have on right now.
All right, so basically, again, so the hoodies, we're gonna have the hoodies on sale. For the next few weeks, we're gonna have them up on the website. I'm gonna have them on my IG. If everybody wanna go to my
Can you
IG,
give the
J
website
Boston.
address?
Say that again.
Can you give the website address?
Oh yeah, yeah. See, the volume's
Oh,
messed
you
up.
can't hear. Can you give the website address so that folks can figure out where to get the
Oh yeah.
information
So
about
right
the
now you go.
foundation?
Um, it's a long website. So for right now, you go on IG. Yeah. So right now you go on IG. My IG is J Boston 62. JAY Boston 62. And you can go on the website. If you go on my profile, my bio, you can click on the link and you can go from there.
Great. And that's certainly how I found it. So guys, if you have access to Instagram, I just posted it, and you can find Sean there, and in his profile description, you will see the link to the Jamia Madri Foundation. So please, and I will also get the link. I'll copy and paste it and put it in the comments for folks later, along with the statewide domestic violence hotline number, and the nationwide domestic violence agency number as well. So please, folks, we want to wrap this up by saying there is help available. Currently, Love Life Now Foundation has what's called the Get Safe Fund. And folks, some of the things that Jay Sean mentioned earlier that he is essentially going to do as well in his area is bridge the gap. So if someone, someone needs a leg up financially with help to get from point A to point B, whether it's leaving from where they are to go to a domestic violence shelter, or leaving from where they are to go to another person's house. I think we lost Jay Sean. Yes, thank you, Tamis. Thank you for sharing that. There is the link to the Mimi Movement website. We lost Jay Sean. Hopefully he'll join back. But I'd like folks to know, again, there's resources. We can point you in the right direction for help. If you feel okay with reaching out to us, we're at lovelifenow.org. The number is 888. It is scrolling across your screen at the bottom. If you know someone that needs a leg up financially to get from point A to point B, and they're in this situation, please send them our way. And obviously, if they feel comfortable talking with Jay Sean, the same. Please point them in his direction. Rosalind says, "Big purple hearts. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us, big time." Charlene, I see your purple hearts as well. And Tamis, thank you very much for the link. That is going to stay in the comments. We want to thank you guys. Again, we're at the 8 o'clock hour for joining us tonight. Maria says, "Let me know anytime you want me to share your story." Absolutely. I would love to have you on, Maria. Absolutely. So let's chat after this. I want to talk with you and Lee. Thank you guys for joining us and for being a part of this live. It is not an easy subject that we're addressing, but is a necessary one that we have to continue to bring to the forefront so that folks can know what help looks like and that there is help available. So thank you for joining us for this Facebook pop-up live held by Love Life Now Foundation. Bye, guys.